Breeze Nation, what is good? It's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love to another edition of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. On the docket for today's show, got to talk about Mel Kiper with some interesting words on what he believes the value of these top three wide receivers are. Is there some Marvin Harrison value here at 9? We'll talk about that, break all of that down. Also, got to look at the play-in games that we saw last night. Zion Williamson, dog. What? Like, again, it's so tough to see him deal with the injury issues. And on the flip side of that, Chicago Bulls getting things cracking at 8:30 tonight. Get your naps in. It's going to be a late night, Chicago. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. We're going to be breaking all that down and more on today's episode. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Shout out to the chat in the building, man. Lavelle in this mug, man. We got Jay Grizz up in here. Is that CEO Snow Gang up in this mug? Bob Chimney in here. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love, rocking with us as always, man. Let's jump straight into this. I thought that we got a very, very interesting report from Mel Kiper today on his thoughts on the Chicago Bears wide receiver situation. He was on with Waddle and Sylvie today, or on yesterday, I should say, and kind of basically the point that or the question that he was asked was, we've entertained the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. could be there should the Chicago Bears trade up to go get MHJ. And I thought it was very interesting, Mel's response here. He said, they, talking about the Bears here, don't have the two in this year's draft. So you're talking about future picks. I would rather stay at 9 and go get Rome Odunze than have to move up when you don't have to already. We know that there's very little, if any, separation. I have Harrison at 3, Neighbors at 4, and Odunze at 5 on my board, and they all have the same grade. You're splitting hairs when you're talking about ranking these three guys. And I thought that was a very interesting point to hear from Mel Kiper, because even how I've looked at Marvin Harrison Jr., right? I've said Marvin Harrison Jr. is the Caleb Williams for wide receivers. And I think that, realistically speaking, yes, each guy has gone through different things. Each guy has gone through different scenarios. I looked at some of Rome Odunze's highlights yesterday, and a lot of times you see Michael Penix putting the ball in a really, really good spot for Rome Odunze. Marvin Harrison Jr. did deal with CJ Stroud at the quarterback position, but did not have that coming into this season, and still was able to put up some really, really amazing numbers at Ohio State. And you look at Malik Neighbors kind of in there. He's with Jaden Daniels, getting that LSU product working together. And so you kind of start to sit there and look at it and go, but he was still able to do this without the guy that we see in the NFL looking really good. So I've always viewed Marvin Harrison Jr. as that number one, as that top guy. You know what I'm saying? But hearing Mel say that, and he says this in the interview with Waddle and Sylvie, check it out over on the ESPN 1000 page. Basically, that, listen, you got to rank them. Like, the point of the job is to rank these guys. So we have to actually rank them, but you're splitting hairs when you're talking about the value there. And so that, to me, makes this a very, very much more interesting conversation. We know that there's been some other things that the Bears have looked to do. Mel also talked about it in that interview, breaking down that you want to go out and you want to get that edge rusher. Do you want to trade future capital when you still need that edge rusher to go get the wide receiver if you can get similar value later on in the draft? I think that is, again, when we saw the Jamar Chase comparison to Rome Odunze, that's the one that, to me, starts to make it very difficult to say that you're going to leave one of these guys on the board, that you're going to walk out of this first round without a wide receiver. I think that there's opportunity to add to your offensive line in the second round if Jordan Morgan falls there, although he's kind of moving up draft boards lately a lot. He's a really good talent. But if Jordan Morgan falls there, right, if you go find a way to trade back into the second round and get JPJ if he's there, or maybe trade back later, I guess, into the first round, that'd take a lot more capital to go get a JPJ. Maybe there'd be some interest there. But when you start to hear the names compared, when you start to hear the names and the people attached to the Rome Odunze talent outside, and now I'm talking about, right, taking into account even Marvin Harrison Jr. saying that we're basically these are the top three guys. They're all going to be great in the NFL. They're all going to be names that we talk about for years to come. People will debate who's the best out of the three of them for years to come. Oh, by the way, you have the best situation that any of these guys are going to. That's where things start to get interesting for me. That's why I kind of look at this, and it makes it very difficult for me to see the Chicago Bears leaving a wide receiver on the board. Let me know how you guys feel in the chat. This is kind of a Pat and the People episode. We'll be going back and forth with some of the with you guys, the listeners, on this one, man. Solo dolo episode for your boy. So yeah, I mean, we gotta make this interesting in some way and or fashion. And y'all don't want to just sit here and stare at me talking for an hour, although I guess some of you do. Some of you like to just listen. Have you hit the like button yet? That's the question that I have for you right now. Have you pressed that button? That button does help us a lot over here on the channel. Let's see what some of you guys are talking about. Baki's in the chat already, man. Appreciate y'all for rocking with us. Nick said, J-Mac did you dirty at the end of the mock earlier, bro. Hey, man, listen, that's my brother, man. I love J-Mac. You know, I rock with dog, like it, doing stuff like that with J-Mac is such a great time because you know that he really, really does care. It's Crimson in this mug said, I absolutely love MHJ. I think he's the best prospect in this draft, but it won't matter who's running down the sideline if the quarterback is on his back. I do agree with that, but I think here's the thing that you also have to take into account. This is not an offensive line like 3 years ago. This is not an offensive line where it's set hut, somebody's laying down on their back. It's not that. We're not at that level. You're getting time. And so you need weapons that are getting open. You also don't want to see your wide receivers running 15 yards down the field every single play. I would assume there's going to be some shorter plays in here to get Keenan Allen, DJ Moore involved, get a guy like MHJ involved, or get a guy like Rome Odunze involved to where you look at, maybe he doesn't have the most time in the NFL to throw the football, but I do believe that he will have adequate time to get the ball to some of these quicker routes. You want to get these wide receivers in here. You want to get as many weapons in here as possible. And it just makes it very difficult for me to start leaving guys on the board. You know what I mean? Like that is, I mean, listen, look at the numbers that these guys have put up, right? Let's take a look here. I thought that this was very interesting as well when you see the three of them and why Mel's talking about splitting hairs, right? You see receptions, yards, average yards per catch, your touchdowns, and their longs on the season. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. Look at the yards on these guys. 92 receptions for Rome. Malik Neighbors end up getting 89 reception, 1,500 yards, 1,600 yards for both of those guys. Marvin Harrison Jr. comes in 1,200 yards. We love the catch radius. We love the talent. We love the big body that Marvin has. Rome also brings that with a little bit of an aggressiveness. Malik, kind of the same thing. Look at the yards per catch, though. Your average yards per catch. This is why Mel is talking about splitting hairs when you kind of see all of these guys on the board together. This is why you see Mel Kiper talking about, you know, are we too worried about which one is going to be the best one versus which one is going to be the best situation? Now, I do still believe, and he even says this in the interview with Waddle and Sylvie, that he's rolled with Marvin Harrison the entire time. He's believed that he is the best in the draft, and that the relationship with his dad plays into it. He's met this young man. He's, you know what I mean? All of that goes into it. And so that's why he's got him 3, 4, and 5 on his board. But if it was wrong, and I said this yesterday, if there is no Marvin Harrison in this draft, if there is no Malik Neighbors in this draft, Rome Odunze is the best wide receiver in this draft. If you start to go through the years, Rome Odunze is the best wide receiver in this draft. And that's why, to me, I have a tough time leaving a guy like that on the board. You're talking about a game-changing piece. Now, that's not to say there's not other positions that you can't get game-changing pieces at, but I asked that question during the Ultimate Mock Draft, which was a blast. We got to definitely make sure we're doing that for the NBA and different things like that. But the Ultimate Mock Draft, I asked, and I'll ask that question here today. Do you have somebody like Rome Odunze on your team right now? And I think the answer right now is no. Yes, you do have Keenan Allen, who can go out there and is a monster of a wide receiver, but you're not pairing that skill set with the young age. You've got DJ Moore, who's younger but doesn't have the size, still is a monster wide receiver, but doesn't have the size. Absolutely an aggressive wide receiver. But yeah, I mean, like you would like to have that big guy next to him that is going to be next to him for 4 or 5 years. I think that is Rome Odunze and or Malik Neighbors, whichever one falls to you. And hopefully it does fall to you, because I don't know if you guys watched today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast, but we had a run of wide receiver. I don't know if I dropped that in here. Maybe let me see if I have that on here. I think that's our old one. I want to throw this one in here. Dog, when I tell you we had a run of wide receivers in the first round, right? We went Caleb Williams. We ended up trading back because all the wide receivers were gone by the time we ended up getting a 5. You know what I mean? We end up getting Olufashanu in here at tackle 15, pairing up Caleb Williams and Olufashanu. PFF really didn't like that. Xavier Leggett in the 3rd round, so you address a wide receiver there. I do think that there's still options to do things like this, but you're talking about going out and getting a really good wide receiver. I think Xavier Leggett could be a really good wide receiver to potentially having what it seems like could be a top 5, top 10 guy in the NFL at some point. It's just, I get where you can get wide receiver value, and I think wide receivers will be taken off the board everywhere, but I feel like we also don't look at the value at other positions. We only look at, if we don't get Dallas Turner, if we don't get Jared Verse, if we don't get Olufashanu, if we don't get Joe Alt, right? There's nobody comparable on that list, and I just don't know if that's the case. I think the gap from Joe Alt to the rest of the tackles, I agree, right? There's a gap there. I think that is you're looking at Joe Alt and you're like, I know what I got. You're looking at Olufashanu and you're like, I see a lot of upside with this guy. I believe that he's going to be really good. But with Joe Alt, I know what I got. With this guy, I got to see it at the NFL level. Not to say it doesn't translate, but I just want to see it, right? I feel the same way about Jordan Morgan. I feel the same way about Troy Fontenot. I feel the same way about when you start to get into those 2nd and 3rd round offensive linemen that I feel about Olufashanu. I think that gap is pretty massive, and I don't feel that way when I look at the wide receivers. Do I think Marvin Harrison is the best? Yeah. But am I sitting here telling you that you're not going to be wildly successful with Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. By the way, over 100 in the chat. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, showing love, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave that 5-star review. Y'all know what to do, man. Appreciate you guys for supporting the channel as you always do. Let's see what you guys are talking about in the comments here. Let's get them up on the screen. Baki in the chat. The biggest question is, do we agree with Kiper that we're splitting hairs between MHJ, Neighbors, and Rome? Because in my opinion, MHJ to me is a step ahead of both Neighbors and Rome. I agree with you, Baki. I don't disagree with you on this point. I do believe that MHJ is the Caleb Williams of this, and then you have the other two. The question that I think is bigger to me is MHJ so far ahead of them? Is he right? Is he Randy Moss? Is he is he Jerry Rice is crazy. I'm not even going to say that. Is he Jamar Chase in that draft, right? Is he the number one so far ahead of him guy that you have to give up draft capital to be able to go up and get him? Or is he the number one guy in a draft where he's just that good, but also if you get Rome Odunze here, with the situation you're putting Rome in, he can go out there and put up the Justin Jefferson, the Jamar Chase, the what you would assume Marvin Harrison Jr. and or Malik Neighbors numbers are. What do we got? Mikey Day in the building says, thank you. This line is not as bad as people keep saying it is. Maybe 1 or 2 more pieces away from being a respectable line, in my opinion. Yeah, listen, I don't think it's great, but I don't think you're falling off the edge of a cliff. I don't think you're Justin Fields year 1, where you got Jason Peters as your left tackle. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe that you're in a situation where if you don't address something, the season's over, right? Coming into some of these seasons with the offensive line, we've literally gone, like, if they don't play better, you're going to lose. I think if the Bears played at the level that they played last year with the amount of weapons that you have on this team, now the center position has to be better, but we've addressed that. I'm doing air quotes for the people listening. We've addressed that, right? And so in theory, you've got the number one, or you've got the biggest position solidified with Ryan Bates and Coleman Shelton. I don't know if I believe that. I truly don't know if I believe that. And I don't think here's the other thing too. Me taking Rome Odunze 9 does not mean I leave this draft without addressing the offensive line. It does not. I think you have to trade up. I think you have to. You have to find a way to get it back into this second round of this draft. There's too many names that come off of the board between 9 and 75. Way too many. You have to find a way to get back on this board. And I'm talking about good names. Not to say they're not there at 3, not to say they're not there at 4. I think there are some really good names in the draft at both of those spots as well. But when you start to look at it and break it down and you're sitting there going, okay, you know, where do we see good players still coming off the board and we can't get access to them? It's that second round. And I think that there will be a little bit of a gap there. V-Dog in the building said, question, if you had to give an overall percentage of holes since Ryan got here and rebuilt this thing, how much of the roster do you think is fixed in your opinion? I thought this rebuild would have taken longer. I mean, listen, I've praised the job that Ryan Poles has done. I don't know if I have the updated graphic on here that Joel normally has to throw up on the screen. But I would say you've probably fixed about 80% of this roster, if not more. You're in the high percentages at this point. You've done so much to overturn this roster. I think that there's so much that's still we're how do I want to say this? If the Bears don't address something this season, we'll be maybe upset because we wanted them to address it, but it doesn't break you. Right? If the Bears run out next season with Braxton Jones at left tackle, do I think Braxton Jones amazing? No. Do I think he's good enough? He's salvageable. You know what I mean? He's salvageable. He can stand out. He's a starting left tackle in the NFL. At the base of it, boom. That's about it. So if they don't address left tackle, is the season over? No. Because I'm assuming they're going to address something else, either at receiver or on the defensive line, that realistically makes you feel better. You're still talking about 3 positions at this point, realistically. Left tackle, 3 technique, which you drafted 3 technique, right? You drafted your 3 technique, so you're hoping that he develops out and he becomes a better player. This season, he continues to move in the right direction. You also drafted Zach Pickens, who's supposed to slide in there at that nose at times. Maybe he can come on and play some 3 technique as well. So really, you're talking about addressing the other edge spot. And we're talking about adding a younger wide receiver to a wide receiving core that already has Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. Those are your spots of need right now. Assuming that Caleb Williams is the answer. You're in a great spot. And I think that Ryan Poles has done an absolutely great job putting this entire thing together. So I'm right there with you, V-Dog. I agree that Ryan Poles has really done a lot with this. Hold on. What do we got here? Bears Junkie in the building. Shout out Bears Junkie. How much do you think it would cost to jump back into the second? I've said this a couple of times. I know people don't like it. But I think when you have a belief in, if you believe in Braxton Jones, calm down, Pat. If you believe in Caleb Williams and the team that you've put together and the coaching staff that you have in place, as much as it seems like you do, as much as the outside perception seems like you do, as much as people inside of that building seem like you do, I've said that I would give up both second round picks next season to move back into this draft. I would give up both second round picks next season to move back into this draft because now I'm looking for less. Are there great players that are going to come off of the board in that time? Yeah, but I'm looking for less. Now I'm going in specifically saying next year's draft should be, what do we want? Not what do we need. There's still needs on the board, right? There's still going to be some needs that maybe end up getting addressed during the season, but what do we want? Most of the draft is going to be, what do we want? Hey, Flus, we're in the first round. What do you want? Yeah, I'd really like Jack Sanborn's amazing. Maybe we can upgrade that third linebacker position, though. What do you want? Really like what we've got at the safety position right now, but we don't have as much depth as I would like. Okay, let's go get that. I think the price is going to be high. But if you believe that there are answers in this draft right now, and you believe in the quarterback that you're putting on the field, you go all in for this young man right now. Is it expensive? You got dang right it is. But going into next season, if you're sitting here telling me that we traded that Panthers pick for Jackson Powers Johnson, I got my 10-year starting center for the second round pick from the Panthers. Why am I upset? What am I mad about? What am I going into next year? Because here's the thing, realistically, right? If we don't address it this season, we're definitely addressing it next season. If we don't address center this season, we're definitely addressing it next season. Unless Ryan Bates is amazing. You got to believe this dude is amazing. Yeah, I mean, so is that like, I think for me, if and maybe that's not what it costs to get back in, right? Depends on where you want to get in the second round. I'm thinking going high in the second round. Maybe you want to just go mid. Maybe you want to get in that 40 to 42 range, and that costs you a little bit less. Maybe you can give up your second round pick and a later pick, and you don't have to do that. Or a pick that you already have in this year's draft, even though you only have 4, and you don't have to do that. Right? Maybe that is the case. And you're able to go get somebody like a Jordan Morgan in the second round if he falls that far to you. I think it also dictates how the board falls and who's on the board. I don't think that Ryan Poles is specifically tied to anybody in the second round. I think that he likes a lot of the players in the second round. And if there's somebody that falls to a range where he feels is attainable, very much like who did we get? Roschon Johnson last year. How the Bears got Roschon Johnson last year was literally, hey, we're trying to go down there and we're very interested in this guy. We think that he's a really, really nice player, but he probably won't be there for us to grab. So, we'll wait and see kind of how the draft falls out. How'd the draft fall out? You're sitting there talking about Roschon Johnson falling to a spot the Bears never thought that they were going to get him at. So what do? They go out there and they trade up to go get him. It really depends on how this whole board falls out. It really depends on how the Bears go out there and value a lot of these guys in the second round. And it really depends on what they go out and draft in the first round. Right? Like that's realistically, that's what all of this comes down to. What are you drafting in the first round? If you go Rome Odunze, if you believe this Mel Kiper, that if you believe what Mel Kiper said, that all 3 of these wide receivers are top wide receivers, if you believe what Mel Kiper said, that all 3 of these wide receivers, you're splitting hairs between them, and you take the receiver, I'm not looking for receiver later in the draft. Just not. I'm going edge. I'm going, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to add some things. And it also, I think here's the most important part that I think a lot of people sleep on. Is we're valuing a lot of these quarterbacks ridiculously high. We're saying, and the draft experts are saying this as well, but they're the ones that are saying, we could see the quarterback run where Caleb, Drake, May, Jaden Daniels, however that order falls, JJ McCarthy. Right? What if guys aren't in love, like everyone's saying with JJ McCarthy? Because remember, Zach Wilson was going to be this guy who was fighting to be a number 1 overall pick. Remember the hype around that? There were some people that were talking about you could take him really, really high. Remember Deshaun Watson falling? We all remember that. You never know what's going to happen. So if the quarterback run doesn't happen, what would throw that off? The wide receiver run. What if the Patriots take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3 instead of a quarterback? Because they're willing to wait to go get a quarterback. Then what do the Cardinals do? Do they panic? They go Malik Neighbors? So where you move at 9 also depends on the things that happen ahead of you. I think if you see the wide receivers off of the board, you would see the Chicago Bears move back. Because now you're talking about guys getting to you that you didn't expect to get to you. Dallas Turner may not be there, but heck, I might be able to move back to 15 and get Jared Verse and add draft capital. And now I don't have to spend future capital. Cardinals would be dumb to pass on MHJ. Well, the Cardinals are 4. Patriots are 3. Like that's my big thing with all of this is we're making all these predictions based on everybody wanting to go after the quarterback. What if the quarterback what if the quarterback run doesn't happen? What if it's Caleb Williams, it's Drake May or Jaden Daniels, and the Patriots go a different direction, or the Cardinals go a different direction, or the Giants? God forbid. Are you telling me we don't think that the Giants make dumb decisions? The Giants go a different direction. In our minds, we're so locked in. We're so guaranteed this is what they're going to do. I know it. Then you start to see guys going in different spots. And you're just like, whoa, wait a minute now. We did that today with the mock draft. The mock draft felt very different than we thought. And I was like, whoa, I've never seen a mock fall this way. And sometimes that's kind of how the real draft goes. Chop said Ringo's fuming somewhere. Ebony Sales, Pats need a QB. I agree with you. But what if they believe in Michael Penix, who's not going to go in the first round? What if they look at it and say, if we could protect this guy, keep him upright, even with the injury issues and age, he's the best quarterback? Because Michael Penix got an arm. And so they sit there and they say, well, Michael Penix is better. We can take him later, but we can go out and add Marvin Harrison Jr. and pair him up with Michael Penix. You never know who these guys value. And every coach believes he's the godsend of football that can fix anything. So that's why I look at it and I say there is don't think that everything is just so perfectly locked in where we get this quarterback run. It may not happen. It may happen, but realistically, could I see the wide receiver run that changes to me a lot for the Bears? Yeah, I could. Where they sit there and go, well, let's trade back. We feel good about Olu Fashanu. You know what I mean? So I think that we feel like our draft boards are locked in, and because of that, these are the only options we have. If that happens, all of a sudden you're talking about the Bears having an option to trade back, get some second round picks, maybe trade back with the Colts, get a second round pick, and maybe add some future draft capital on top of that as well. We know Ryan Pace, don't you do that. We know Ryan Poles loves to add draft capital. We know it. He's done it every draft. He loves having many bites at the apple. So we'll see what this ends up being, man. I thought that Mel Kiper article was very, very interesting when we're talking about, what the Chicago Bears can actually go out there and pull off. And if you're getting MHJ value at the 9th overall pick, I don't know if I agree with Mel. I don't know if I think that Mel is spot on with that, but I do think that you're getting a really good value at a wide receiver if that wide receiver does fall to 9. And so I'm excited for this draft. I can't wait for this draft to finally be over. We are 8 days away from the draft being done, so we got a little bit to go. We're almost there, Bears fans, and we're going to have a lot of fun breaking it down. And I'll be at Soldier Field vlogging the entire event, so make sure to tune in for the draft day vlog as well. We're going to take a quick break, listen to a message from our sponsors over at Aura. We'll be right back on the other side to break down more of your comments in the chat and talk a little bit of this play-in tournament. The NBA playoffs are here, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back right after this. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching the show. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Aura. Have you ever done a Google search on your own name? You'd be surprised what pops up. Your full name, email address, home address, health records, your relatives. It's all out there. And that's why I've been using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests just for me. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam I get, but it protects me from hackers who could use that information to help them access my social media, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. It's really simple to set up. I don't have to download several apps or go to things like antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls, identity theft, but you can get all of that in one place with Aura. I get everything at one affordable price as well. You may already have one or two of these tools, but not having Aura is like leaving the front door locked while leaving the back door and windows wide open. For you to be able to take advantage of Aura, we got a special deal for you here today. Stop data brokers from exposing your personal information. Go to my sponsor at https://aura.com/the Windy City. Again, that is aura.com/the Windy City to get a 14-day free trial and see how much of your information is being sold. Yeah, we got that Aura beat back up in there, boys. Yeah. Y'all know how that Aura beat gets down, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review, man. Y'all know what to do. Appreciate you guys for supporting as you do every single day. Loving all the commenters, loving everybody talking about it. I love Lord Crimson, like, are we really listening to Mel Kiper, though? You know what I mean? Hey, we got NBA play-in basketball happening right now. The Miami Heat are taking on the Philadelphia 76ers to determine the matchup between the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat. This is an interesting play-in tournament already. I want to start with some of the games from yesterday. Are the Warriors done? Is it over? Yesterday felt final to me. Now, I know it's not, right? I know guys are going to get paid. I know that there's going to be, they're probably going to bring back Clay. But yesterday just felt so final to me. Clay couldn't knock down a shot. It seemed like it was a team that just had no direction. Draymond Green just kind of was out there. I know great things have to come to an end. But I think what's funny about the Chicago Bulls run of championships and things like that being cut short is that we never got here. We got to the point where like Scottie was hurt and things like that, but it was never like Scottie Pippen can't play basketball. And Scottie went on to have some more great years in the NBA. This feels like, hey, boys, this might be done. And then, right, with all remember the team that we thought was next up, right? The Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga Warriors are coming. They've got a pipeline. Here we go. These guys have figured it out. What an amazing job the Warriors did. That is gone. That is gone. I don't know what has happened here to Andrew Wiggins. I know he was dealing with some things, especially with some family issues that he had last season and different things like that. But last night versus the Kings just looked pitiful. The Kings ran him out of the gym. Big game. You knew what it was going to be. It felt like from the outcome, it was going to be that, and it ended up playing out. Like, it's just very interesting to kind of see the downfall of certain teams. And last night, we absolutely saw the downfall of the Golden State Warriors. And I would almost say that it felt very, very final to me watching that. I don't know if we see the same Golden State Warriors on the floor next year. Nova 312 saying Clay is a shell of himself. It's time for Draymond to move to full-time media now. I could see Steph winning another chip, but it'll be with a new team or a complete rehaul. I think a rehaul. I think Stephen Curry will be one of the last players ever to play an entire career. I'm not going to say that. Because we get a large influx of European players, and I don't know if people notice this as much, but like a lot of the star Euros like do not leave their team. So I'm not going to say that. I think that there is like Victor Wembanyama's probably not going to lead the Spurs. But Stephen Curry is going to be one of the few that plays his entire career with a single team. I don't think that there will be many more players like that. Outside of that game, though, man, this was the tough part for me. I hate to see this, but I think I'm just here on this with a young player that just can't seem to get out of his own way. And I've seen it in Chicago far too often. I think Zion Williamson is amazing. I think that I've never seen somebody run over LeBron ever. I mean, he ran over LeBron and LeBron looked hurt. I don't believe that Zion Williamson's body will allow him to play the NBA game the way that he needs to. And I think that at this point, it's not like he's overeating and stuff. I think he's doing all that he can to try and keep the weight down. I think he's doing all he can to try and stay on the diet. I think that he's doing all that he can to, and he looks better. He looks so much slimmer since the play-in tournament. He looks like he has worked himself back into shape, but the injuries continue to pile up. Do I think that if you ever get a run of him where he has a very, very healthy stretch, which he had for the most part a healthy season, but it now might come to an end because he can't play in the next play-in game because because of hamstring issues that are going to hold him out. I think you have to have another star on your team, and Zion Williamson could be the guy opposite him. You cannot build around Zion Williamson. And that is crazy to say. That is crazy to say. He's so talented. He's so ridiculously gifted. He can do he when he's in the game, when he's healthy, his ability to finish around the rim is unmatched. I guess it's matched by Daniel Gafford, but Daniel Gafford's not putting up 40. Zion Williamson put on a clinic last night and couldn't finish the game out. That's insane. I don't believe that you can build around Zion Williamson. LeBron James, yet again, will make the playoffs. He's going to go up against the Denver Nuggets. That's going to be an interesting first round. I think that I'd rather have that first round than a first round of the Pelicans. Right? I at this point, with the Bulls being who they are, and we'll get to them in a second. With the Bulls being who they are, just get me to the season. Or I'm sorry, just get me to the Bulls that mess my mind up. Whenever I say the Bulls, I'm like, get me out the season. Just get me the best matchups in the playoffs. Just give me the best. That's all I want to see. And so I think that you have a competitive matchup, might I say, with a Lakers versus Nuggets matchup. But I didn't want to see Zion win that game. I didn't. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just not. It's sad to say though, man. That when I see Zion, I just see a monster on the court. He looks so unstoppable. He looks like he can do anything. He was kind of adding that 3-point shot in, not really, but kind of, right? But there was so much talent there, and it's just like, dog, like I can't trust you to be here. You can have all the ability in your world, but your best ability is availability. It sucks to say, man. It sucks to say. Baki said, what'd you say, Baki? Baki said, he's literally a monster, legit. Baki said, Nuggets finna get the Lakers all the smoke they're asking for. Yeah, listen, I've said this many times, bro. Like, it's about to be another Nuggets championship, bro. There's nobody that can stop Jokic. All the best defensive players, like the two guys that are up for defensive player of the year and might win it, right? Rudy Gobert, Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama is not in this playoff, so he doesn't matter. But Rudy Gobert, he went straight through Rudy Gobert's chest repeatedly. And he was not like throwing floaters. He was not throwing like trying to dunk on him or none of that. Layups. This is the dude that blocks everybody's shot. Layups. Did the same thing to Victor Wembanyama. There's nobody that can stop 290 coming at you with a handle, with the IQ of a elite point guard, with the ability to facilitate the basketball to every one of his teammates in the perfect position to get them open. Oh, by the way, and if he wants to go for 40, you can't stop him. Who in the West is slowing down the Denver Nuggets? Y'all let me know. I'd love to know. I got Denver winning the whole thing. Listen, I don't even, what, Porzingis in the East? Giannis definitely ain't gonna do it. Not to say that Giannis can't play some good defense versus Nikola Jokic, and I guess Jokic wouldn't go through him, but like, all right, I got Giannis on the perimeter. Let's go. Eco Bean said the Clippers can beat the Nuggets, but Kawhi, street clothes Leonard has to stay healthy throughout the playoffs. I don't know if the Clippers can beat the Nuggets. I'm not going to lie. The question with I don't know if the Clippers are going to win their matchup. Because what is Clippers right now? Clippers are playing, if I'm not mistaken, the Mavericks. Let me see how the playoffs break down here. NBA playoff bracket. Joel had that up for us on the other day when we were doing our prediction. Clippers and I don't think the Clippers get through the Mavericks. Shout out to the Mavericks for how they've turned their season around and how they're playing. I don't think the Clippers get through the Mavericks. And as a Bulls fan, you son of, I think it's because of Daniel Gafford. I said this on Locked On NBA, which I'll be doing tonight with Nick Angstead. Tune in with us over there on that as well after the Bulls game. I said this on Locked On NBA, that if we're being honest, Dallas has never had that third guy that you could just count on to go out there and clean up and get buckets and let these guys be these guys, but he just gives you the additional 15. points. Yeah, I mean, just something to push you over the edge. Because I got Luka and I got Kyrie. I don't need that much to push me over the edge. I just need something to push me over the edge. Also, he improves them defensively. Since Daniel Gafford has joined the Dallas Mavericks, he is shooting 78% from the field. Let me repeat that. 78% from the field. He's scoring 14 points a game. You finally got that third guy that you look at and say, you know what? I can count on his points. Because Tim Hardaway was never that guy. Tim Hardaway was never going to be that guy. Oh, and on top of that, you add in the addition of Derrick Jones Jr., who can go out there in 26 minutes, knock you down a couple of threes, get you some solid rebounds, play some good defense. You add in PJ Washington, who has been an elite defender since joining the Dallas Mavericks with his 12 points, couple of rebounds. Right? You're finding ways to beat really, really good teams. Wow, Baki, breaking news. The Chicago White Sox have won a game. You bastards. Hey, that's how Chicago White Sox won a game. Did they, Baki? Nope, not that one.
Clap it up.
Yeah, that's all they get. That's all they get from me. That's all they get from me at this point. That's all they get from me. I think the Mavs are a very dangerous team. I think that the Clippers are going to have a tough time getting out of the first round. Now, the flip side of that is, like you said, Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is different. Kawhi Leonard is different, bro. He's one of those players that you look at and you're just like, how you going to stop him? How you going to slow him down? Because he can go for 50 every single night. Now, Luka can match him. But Luka got to deal with PG on him. So I don't know. I guarantee you nobody's guarding Kyrie. So there's that. Yeah, I mean, like I don't know, bro. I don't know. I think you'll be a little surprised by what this Mavericks team can do. On the flip side of that, right, in the Eastern Conference, we got the game tonight happening right now, 76ers versus the Miami Heat. Baki saying, oh no, Jimmy is down. I don't like to hear that. I don't know if it's serious or not. I don't have the game on. I'm going to be tuning in, catching up on that from, I think I'm about a quarter and a half behind, something like that. So I'll catch up as it goes. But this Eastern Conference matchup, I got Philly winning it. I had Philly winning it. You know what I mean? I had Philly beating Miami straight up. I knew Miami would make it a competitive game, but I did have Philly beating Miami. If the I don't know, man. Like, if the Bulls can find it, I hate to say this. Let me see. Oh yeah, I see Jimmy. I see Jimmy on the ground now. Is he holding his wrist? Oh, he's holding his knee. Oh no. Oh no, that is bad. That looks tough. That looks tough right there. That looks tough. Ugh. I hope he's okay. I hope Jimmy's okay. I never want to see that. Bro, listen. If the Bulls can play competitive basketball for 2 games, they should be in the play-in. Or they should be in the playoffs. Now, they're going to get washed versus Boston. But if you can play competitive basketball for 2 games, you should make the playoff. Competitive. What does it mean? I don't know. What does it mean for the team? Kobe White gets some more experience. But this is a play-in where if they can get through Atlanta tonight And Atlanta comes into this game a little bit hobbled as well. No Onyeka Okongwu, who I was a little bit worried about. He's out with some inflammation long term. You do have Trey, you do have DeJounte, but they've been two guys that have struggled to play as well together. So we'll see kind of what that ends up being. You're at home though. You're in the UC. You're gonna have the fans fired up behind you. You've got. There's no drum. Well, I guess he hasn't officially. I don't know if he's officially been ruled out yet. But the latest that I'd heard on drumming from Chuck Swirsky, hip 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 hip, is that he would not be. He did not expect Drummond to play. So you're dealing with Vooch versus Clint Capella. Pick and rolls all night should be. You're dealing with Javonte Green basically guarding everyone else. Ayo Dosunmu, there's some optimism on Ayo playing is the last that I'd heard. But I don't know, man. You got to get through one game at a time. And all of that just to get to Boston. Now, I will say this. I was active tonight per Baki. Shout out Baki. Now, I will say this. If you get to Boston, we know that Boston has a tendency to choke. And in theory, the Chicago Bulls, even though they didn't use it at all during the season, did get the game plan to beat Boston last year from the Miami Heat, and the Bulls are a pretty good defensive team in the half-court set. The problem with the Bulls is pick and roll. But if by some miracle the Chicago Bulls say, send them left, send him left all night. Left. Where's he going? Left. Make sure he doesn't go right. Left. Who knows? Who knows? And this is what I hate about this, because I love this team so freaking much. I love the Chicago Bulls, man. I want to see them win. But what are you winning for? What are you doing this for? To give yourself some confidence to run it back? Jesus. And it sucks even more to see players that we used to have going out here and dominating on everywhere else on the court. Jimmy Butler, he's competing, right? Baki said he's back. He's out there competing in the play-in right now. He's trying to lead his team to another finals run out of the play-in. Shout out to him. Daniel Gafford, he's on a really good team. They're sixth right now. DJJ. Oh, remember we used to have him too. Yeah, Bulls players everywhere, impacting your team. We're struggling to figure out how to keep a second big man on the team. I don't know, man. I don't have high hopes tonight. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, the want for the Bulls to win is there. Do I believe that they can? That is tough for me right now, because I think that you're looking at a Bulls team that cannot defend the pick and roll in the slightest. Just can't. And that with Clint Capella and Trae Young in the lineup, I would run that play, if I'm Quinn Snyder, 675 times for a bucket every single time. Hopefully Quinn's not watching this. But we'll see what the Bulls do. Will they finally make it out of the play-in? I don't know, but I have to go watch basketball because I have to do Locked On NBA tonight. So I got to tune in with that. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love, sticking around, watching today's episode. If you haven't done so, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave the 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Over on the Patreon side, if you haven't joined the Patreon side, check the link in the description below. We've got some highlight reactions to Rome Odunze up there. Also going to have Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors up there as well. Probably at some point are going to do a Caleb Williams video as we get closer to this draft. And then you make sure to comment players that you want me to react to over there, because I can't watch the NFL videos on this side, so I got to watch them over there. They frown upon that on YouTube apparently. And yeah, if you haven't done so, subscribe to the Pat the Designer page. We got stuff coming out over there as well. We're trying to supplement all the incomes that we used to have on YouTube into other channels. So we appreciate you guys who do support, do rock with us on all of that. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review for the Windy City Breeze. It's your boy Pat the Designer. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. One love.